Greetings captains, Gunship here. Hope you're doing well. This video is about the 10 new ships that was released with the Fire and Ice update. I'm going to go through each and every ship and tell you what I think about it and what it can do for the game. If there's a ship that you are specifically interested in hearing about, then please use the sections underneath the video and jump to that section. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start off with the US fleet. And they have a new premium ship called the USS Frank Knox. Now I did manage to test drive that a little bit on the dev server and I quite liked it. And I think it is reasonably placed at 4.7. I may have considered it as a 4.3 because it's kind of the premium version of the gearing. But nonetheless, I think it's a good ship. It's certainly if you already have, for example, the Wilkinson and you want another premium for your 4.7, then that's a very good one to have. And actually, talking a comparison between the Frank Knox and the Wilkinson, you can see here that it's in rank 3. This is actually very useful when you're doing daily tasks, etc. You'll also notice that you actually get the full 1200% reward silver lines, that is with a premium account. So in terms of your reward, it is as good as the Moffat. Like if you compare with the Wilkinson, you can see the reward here is only 645. So for your extra 500 golden eagles, you are getting quite a bit of extra silver lines over time. So if it was a choice between the Wilkinson and the Frank Knox, I would choose that. If you're new to the game and want to choose between that and the Moffat, I will probably still go with the Moffat. But you can get a really nice US lineup. You can see there's plenty of other 4.7 ships in the US lineup. And it will make for a really interesting play. And of course, being that little battle rating lower, you could get into a 4.7 being the highest in the match, and that would be really cool. So I think that is a good ship to look at. If we look at a quick preview of the ship, you can see that you have, I'm going to scroll out a little bit here. So you've got 6 main guns on 3 turrets, so 2 at the front and 1 at the back. It means that you only lose 1/3 of your firepower if you go sort of straight forward, which is okay. In terms of armor, there's not a lot, but there's a little bit, and that's sort of to be expected on a destroyer. And if we look at the X-ray here, it's sort of very traditional setup and layout of the ship. With at least the shell rooms in the front are really low down, which is good. And like with any other ship, if you're trying to kill them, better to shoot at the back because the ammunition sits higher near the waterline because they have to have room for the propeller shaft underneath and so on. Another thing with this update that is worth noticing is if I mouse over, for example, the turret here, a lot of them you get this extended description underneath, which I think is a really useful add-on that Guyton has made. So yeah, all credit to them. That looks like a really nice destroyer. And while I personally will not have a need to invest in it, I think that for new starters into Navy, it could be really useful. If we do a quick test sail of it, just so you can see, so you get both sort of depth charges you can use. How useful they will be, I don't know. I probably wouldn't take them myself, but you get a reasonable amount of torpedoes. 24 torpedoes is certainly not to be sniffed about. Although now that's a depth charge. I think torpedoes are 10. That makes more sense, right? It's just like it seemed to me written the wrong way around. Okay, let's have a quick look at it. Just waiting for it to load in. Right, so here we are. And yeah, you can see it takes out. The AA is good, but they will be on any American destroyer. And if I shoot the boat here, I mean, yes, it will die. But as you can see, I think a nice overall looking ship, and I think you will find it really useful. So yes, there's also confirmation. It's 10 torpedoes and 24 of these depth charges. And actually, if I try and use those, you can see they jump out from the side there. So I'll see if I can do another one. They might take a little bit of time to reload. That's another 3. So every time you hit in, you get 3 coming out to the side, and then they will explode in the water. So nice destroyer. I think that would be great for the game. The second ship we have in the US lineup here is the USS Fargo. I also test drove that ship on the development server, and it's sort of it's a Cleveland with better AA. So if you hover the Cleveland here, you can see it has four 40mm buffers times 2 guns for its AA. Where in the Fargo, you have a lot more. Well, a lot more. You kind of almost like double up. Actually, some of the guns are quad guns. So AA on the Fargo is really nice. Really nice. The Cleveland was not bad when it came to AA, but the Fargo goes above and beyond that. So as a 5.7 as well, it's a strong ship. It's probably one of the strongest 5.7 in the US lineup, or will be. Now it has arrived. So a quick preview of this, so we can just look at ammunition and storage. We go to off first, so you can appreciate the look of the ship. It's sort of a relatively modern looking cruiser here. Armor, typical you will find on around the main section of the ship. In terms of armor belt, there's not much to think about here. 127mm. It's reasonable. I wonder actually, they might be better than the normal the cruiser, so we might have a quick look at that. But if we look at the X-ray here, typical layout, and here you can see lots of these buffers, guns here. Yeah, it's it is armed to the teeth, and a couple of planes at the back as well. So very nice. I think that will be a great ship. All right, so here we're in the test mode, and as you can already see, it's an impressive display of secondaries. That's a lot for people to like about this ship. If I just focus on my secondaries so I could take control. Look at that. This is all of them. Go down to the main guns and let's shoot at something in the distance. Waiting for things to reload. Should be nice. Hitting at the mid 36%. Yeah. I think that's going to be a firm favorite. So the Germans get a new boat, torpedo boat. It's called the Hugin, and it's a 4.0. And as you can see, it has two 40mm buffers on it. And yeah, it got a new line and tech tree as well. I think it's going to be good. It looks very similar to the Jaguar, to be honest. So if you're researching down the German line and you want to get, for example, to the Köln, for example, as your ship or whatever, then the Jaguar is probably just as good, the two 40mm and the torpedoes. I also think speed-wise, it's not much different. I mean, this is, say, 68 kilometers an hour, but remember that is the stock speed of the ship, where the Jaguar here is 80. I think it's going to be very similar when it's fully researched. I can't test drive it, but we can do a quick preview. Obviously, there's not much to see. In the X-ray, here's the main caliber and the second one. So sidewise, it would be really nice. There's hardly any armor on these ships. And yeah, a nice looking boat. Difference between this and the Jaguar, I think, is the all side. This looks quite short compared to the Jaguar, so it's going to be probably quite an interesting, or a small target where you can quickly sort of move around islands and so forth. So I think that would be good here. I think that's what you will be looking out for. So yeah, a nice little addition to Germany. Unfortunately, they don't get anything else in this patch. Moving on to the Russian fleet. So we got two ships here. The first one in the coastal lineup is the MPK Pr.1331M, quite a mouthful. It looks like an interesting frigate. I think it's going to have quite a fast firing gun at the front here, so the 30mm that you pretty much know from the 206 and so on. It clearly got rockets up here. If you go into the X-ray view here, we got the mortars on there, and you got this fast firing 30mm. And for bigger targets, or when you're on the side, slightly on getting other targets killed, I think this 76mm autocannon will be very useful. So yeah, good ship. Maximum speed is not great at 39, but with mods and modules on it, it'll probably be near the 50. So yeah, not a bad ship. There is no armor protection to speak of here, so they don't show it. But I think it's a nice looking ship, actually. I quite like the look of it. It also is quite a big target, but and you get a frigate spawn, of course. But I think it's a good addition to the Russians. Probably not the one I would research first, put it that way. The second ship that the Russian gets is in their blue water ships department, and it's a tier or rank 1 destroyer. I don't think there's much to say about it. It has 430mm guns and quite a bit of AA to it, to be fair. But yeah, I don't think people are going to spend much time playing that. So not much news from the Russians apart from that ship in the coastal lineup. Great Britain, though, actually has a little bit to shout about. First, we have a new destroyer in the 4.7, the HMS Diana. And you can see it's quite late, from 1958. If you compare that to Broke from 1950s, Cadiz from 51. So yeah, 58 is a bit later. It has 3 main turrets, so firepower is reasonable for the 4.7. Got a couple of buffers, AA and so on, and some torpedoes. I think that's going to be yeah, pretty neat. Looks quite neat with the red nose here as well. If it put stripes on it, it would be Italian, but it isn't. It's a British ship. So yeah, quite nice looking ship here. Awfully relatively modern guns front and back. Going to be interesting to see how fast they fire. Actually, the X-ray will sort of give us an idea. So 20 rounds per minute. That's not bad. So yeah, we'll test drive it and see what it looks like. Magazines down here below, and also as low as they can make them at the rear. So yeah, a good looking ship. The armor is only on the turret. There's nothing on the main hull whatsoever. Let's go into a quick test sail with this one and just see what the guns look like when they fire. Let's get the guns on target for first one. So they swing around reasonably well. Yeah, that worked. Got a bit of AA going there as well for the planes and whatever else target you can find. Let's try and shoot the destroyer over here and see what that looks like in terms of rate of fire. Maybe 4 seconds or so. Yeah, it's not bad. I think it's going to be okay. It depends a little bit what you're going to be able to get in terms of other ammunition for it, but it's a bit different with the guns to the other ones, and you still got a couple of well, it looks like you've got torpedoes here, although I can't use them at the moment. That's a test sail, but I haven't researched them either. So yeah, I think it's a nice looking ship. It's a good addition to the 4.7 rank of a 4.7 BR of the British. So let's move on. Now, unfortunately, I can't test sail the Glorious because I haven't researched the Diana yet, and they just put this in the tech tray. But we can do a preview of it. this is going to be an interesting ship, I think, because you say, yeah, it looks a bit like a battleship, but it is only at battle rating 5.7, which is lower than a lot of the cruisers. So let's put this in off mode. It's quite a long, big ship. It got reasonable max speed. I mean, bear in mind this is stock, so it will go up near 60 kilometers when it's spaded. So you'll be able to follow cruisers along on their journey. Being a World War One ship, it clearly doesn't have much in the AA department. But what it does have is, of course, these main guns, 15-inch main guns, which is a lot. I mean, a sort of big battleship class guns to have. Now, it doesn't have 4 turrets; it only have 2. But still, rate of fire 2 rounds a minute, shot every 30 seconds. That's not bad at all. It also has some torpedoes, but I think these are the usual that just go straight out to the side. And I don't find them that useful in gameplay. I tend to disable them. What it does have, though, is these sort of a little bit interesting secondaries. They're 102 millimeter guns, and you can see they've got a fire rate of 12 rounds per minute, but they're sort of quad. There's 4 in each. Might be easier to show if I zoom in on them here. Oh, these are 3, so I beg your pardon. But yeah, 3 guns in each of these. Nice and a bit unique guns to have. So clearly on the broad side, you might be able to invoke quite a few of them, probably up to 4 turrets per side. So I think that, yeah, I look forward to this one. It doesn't have much armor at all. It's got cruiser armor, not battleship armor. That's probably the nicest way to put it. And you do have the coal bunkers as well, which can end up being helpful. And you've got a large crew count, 842 crew. That's decent for a cruiser size sort of battle rating, if you like. So, yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting ship to have in the lineup, and interesting to take that out. For example, with the Belfast, which is also a 5.7, so you might put it in that lineup. So that concludes the British, and let's move on to my favorite that I really are looking forward to. So Japan are getting the Fuso, and it sits here in the tech tree underneath the Setsu. So they have sort of moved things around a little bit, and we'll have to learn to live with that. A fair amount to research and all that kind of stuff. But if you just see a mouse forward, you see the amount of turrets just there. You know, there is lots of them. There's 89 25 millimeter turrets, and if you haven't seen my sort of preview of the Fuso, I created a separate video for that, so you can see that on my channel where I tested on the dev server a bit more, and also compared to other 7.0 ships. So it's got battle rating 7.0. I think that this ship here may contest the crown of the Kronstadt. We'll see how it is when in real life, when I research it and start playing it on the server. I think it looks fantastic. I'm really thrilled about this ship, and I hope most of you will be able to research it really quickly and use it. If you look at the armor, it got good armor along the side here, 300 millimeter. I know these not the thickest or widest in terms of the height on the ship here, but they should at least be quite good against any torpedoes and some of the shells that lands near the waterline. I think that's very, very nice ship at all. And it has a massive crew, 1900. So that's really good for survivability. Yeah, amazing ship. And I can't wait to research it and play it. So this is definitely number 1 on my list. I'll just give you a quick test sail of it, and then we will move on to Italy after that. You see the ADX, it's very quick to kill the boat, and yeah, it's good. It's a nice amount of AA. If I take over the AA and just shoot in one direction, you can see how much I get out here. It's a good amount. Now the guns, because they're large, of course, they take a while to swing around. But also look at the amount of secondaries, and that's another thing I like about this ship. You have the main guns and you got all the secondaries. That works at a reasonable arc as well when you start shooting at other ships here. So I'm just going to try and zero a little bit in on this as good as I can. I'm just waiting for the last 3 turrets to become light green down the bottom here. Right. So just look at the ship when I fire the broadside. I mean, that is a lot of shells, right? And I think that you will not be disappointed with this ship. At least I hope not. We'll see how well it takes and soaks up damage, but yeah, you're well protected. You got the firepower of the Hugin and the AA protection of the Congo. What is not to like? I'm really looking forward to playing this one in anger, and I also really like all the crew on board. Look at all those crew there in the white uniforms. It looks, I think, really smart. So now we get on to Italy. And Italy has been blessed with 2 small ships. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a 7.0 battleships like the rest of you, but we haven't been given that. So we have this starter destroyer, and there's not much to say about that. It's probably good to have one for people that are starting out. At least they have something to play alongside the turbine. I think it's a perfectly okay little ship for the battle loading of 3.0, and then it looks a little bit different and quirky with the guns and so on. But yeah, I don't think that a lot of you is going to spend too much time on this one here. Coastal fleet wise, you may be more interested in this one here, the Folage. It's a sub chaser, so at least it got a boat spawn. Got a reasonable crew on it. It's not that fast at 30 kilometers an hour, but it's a premium. And you know, if you have the spare Evo and you want to really try and get to the Sieta or whatever, then it might be worth adding that to your lineup. If I had to choose between the two, I will think that you probably get more uses out of the spare Evo. But who knows? Let's have a quick preview of the ship. So it looks quite neat. But in terms of guns, look at the X-ray here. You got 1 main caliber gun. And always a bit tricky if you only got 1 main caliber gun, right? Because if that gets damaged, you kind of have a sitting duck a little bit. And then we got 37 at the back here. So yeah, let's take it for a quick test sail. Add torpedoes, etc. Looks like you just get the 2 torpedoes. This is probably limited use. Torpedo just sort of like find a bit of a dead zone here. At least the torpedoes are somewhat movable. How far will they go back? Not bad. You've got a good arc on the torpedo, in fairness. So while it only has 1, you know, if you're up against a destroyer or something like that, then that's it's worth having on board. Really good arc of fire here, but you only have the 1. And they don't go a long distance, only 4 kilometers, so it really is all close range. The gun that you have here is a bit slow. Trying to get it down, so shoot the target. That was a terrible shot. Reload here is going to kill me, I think. Okay, so I do hit the target. We'll go just to the secondary. Yeah. It's a nice looking ship, but in terms of firepower, I'm not convinced. I really am not. Easily suffer. So that's where we are. Okay, with that in mind, that sort of concludes running through the ships. The only thing else to mention from the update notes is that there's been a bit of changes to how much the Dreadnought cost in the CO2, but that's minor details. And apparently AI ships will now fire torpedoes. How that's going to work out remains to be seen. Anyway, I hope this was of interest to you. I'll see you in the next one. Gunship out.